Hello, Allison.
Hello, hello.
I like how we act like we just met on here, but we've been chatting for a few minutes. It's my favorite part about the recording. Hey
Magic.
everybody, Allison Blanchard, is that how you say your last name?
Yep.
I should probably practice that before hopping on here. Not a too hard of a last name like myself, but we're gonna be talking about being intentional, intentions, and results, and all the good stuff on winning, right?
Yes.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that we're gonna be talking about?
I've got tons of stuff.
Cool.
You want me to just start and we can chat
Well,
about it?
yeah, let's first, can you kind of give yourself an introduction on who you are, what your past is, so we kind of have a baseline foundation of where everything's coming from.
Gotcha. So 10 years ago, actually, it was more than 10 years ago, I left school. I started in Eau Claire. Then I went to Stout and was about this close to getting my bachelor's in psychiatric rehab and decided instead to move to Mississippi because who doesn't do that? It was right after Hurricane Katrina. And I became a project manager there for a building company, and we did it for free. We had a very large grant from the royal family of Saudi Arabia, and I built 128 homes in 2007.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Then after that, I got into real estate by complete happenstance. And I was very lucky to be able to work under the number one broker in the state at the time, and she still is today. She taught me everything I knew, and I finally had the chance to move back to my hometown, which is where I've lived my entire life. My whole family is still here. And in late 2016, early 2017, I started real estate in Wisconsin. Um, and I am based out of Clear Lake. I started a company here with a business partner. It didn't go in the direction I really wanted it to after about a year and a half. So then I started my own company, and we've been in existence for just over 2 years now. And the best way to stay the course, ironically, I did not plan it, but that's the shirt I have on, stay the course. And the best
I
way to
thought
do
that
that
said
is with
like how or something. I couldn't
no,
see
stay
the,
the course.
saw the COU and I was like, something about the cow.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? No. And so I opened Compass by myself to help stay the course and go in the direction that I wanted to, and help other agents do the same for clients all over the area. We now have 4 offices, 17 agents, I think, or thereabouts, and just rocking and rolling, trying to do the best that we can.
I feel like I want to hear more about your experience when you worked at that place. Did you say that big brokerage was down in Mississippi, the largest
Yep.
brokerage in the state?
Not the largest, the best.
The
Number one.
best. Okay.
Yeah.
So that experience, I feel like you probably pulled a lot of your knowledge and what you do today out of that experience in itself. You probably saw
Absolutely.
the possibilities and like surrounding yourself with people who are in the growth trajectory. I'm assuming,
Absolutely.
and when you and I didn't talk about this before we came on here, but I'm assuming you probably pull a lot of the things you took notes on in front of you from those really cool experiences back in New Orleans, and you brought them back here into Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of times. So my boss and the CEO and broker of the company, her name was Carlene. And there are a lot of times I pull things that I watched her do because she had, at the time, I think it was 5 offices and like 200 agents.
Holy shit.
And now she's at like 7 and maybe 250 or 270. I don't know exactly. But just watching her, and she luckily took me everywhere she went. I would go to conferences with her and it was Coldwell Banker. So we would go into the places that only the top 3% of all Coldwell bankers in the entire nation and world would go. I was sitting next to the CEO of Coldwell Banker franchise. Um, and we also had a Century 21 office because they're under the same umbrella of Realogy. And so I got to go to those conferences and sit next to that CEO. Like those are things I shouldn't have, been doing per se. I was only in the business a few years, but she allowed me experiences that I would, not get other places, and learning directly by how she organized and did things and growth patterns. When you're surrounded by that kind of people, then yeah, you have a different mindset than if you're surrounded by people who are just trying to make, ends meet, which at that time I was that person. So I have came a long ways. I grew up well with everything I needed, but at that time I was a young mom with 5 kids and things just kind of fell apart. So it's not like I did this easy peasy with, a husband by my side who's making a ton of money and I'm just, doodling around here. Like, no, we had to work together and dig out of a pit the size of Mount Rushmore and make it work. And that's kind of where I get the idea of failure and winning, or intention and results. You don't get results and win by just, winging it. You have to be intentional and have a plan, know where you're at, know where you want to go, and then, do it and execute. And when your back's up against the wall like that, you don't have anywhere to go but up. And you never want to go back there again, then you work your tail off like none other. And that's what we had to do.
So interesting, because I had a very similar, I mean, I didn't have 5 kids, but
it makes it a little difficult.
Oh my God. Right out of college, I didn't have any sort of income. I had student loans, I had credit card bills, I had my truck loan. Like I had rent. I was freaking 24. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And I totally relate to you when your back is up against the wall and you're like, I don't know what else to do except for look at people who are doing it on a level that I want to do it on and do what they do. It was just a simple form of, okay, if I want to be the average, well, I better get in a group where that average is really high, and where the average people are what I want to be at some point, and then start grinding and success leaves clues at the end of the day, right? If those people are doing at a high level of success, well, why don't I just ask them what they would recommend? Well, what would you recommend if I'm in my role and I have zero money, right? And they're going to tell me, and I'm probably going to do exactly what they tell me, because it's better than me trying to figure out all on my own.
Well, why do trial and error when someone else already has? And I'm over here laughing. Where did you get Success Leaves Clues?
It's from the Gary Keller book.
Okay. So my mentor is writing a book right now that is named Success Leaves Clues.
Oh, no shit. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
It's from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book.
Oh, gotcha. I got it in my office down the hallway.
Yeah, I got like 4 copies in my office too. I love the book. I mean, at the end of the day, what a lot of agents complicate this business, but yet 95% of agents get out of the business within the first 5 years.
Legit. And you know what? I teach that all the time, that we overcomplicate it with the next shiny thing, whether it be a new program that you just got to have to do business. And that's how I teach business and real estate. It's not that complicated. All you have to do is treat people like people, attract good business, which is a whole nother story. We don't chase here because that's gross. But learning how to just treat people well does not take a program. And I have it actually right here. I'm glad I have it. My heat just kicked on. Can you hear that? Is it bothering you?
Can't even hear it.
Okay, good. This was how I did, it says 2017. So I have a folder. This is from 2015 and on. All my goals, all my intentions, everything I wanted to do to be a winner and get results is all in one place. And I'm super old school. Like, it's been taped together. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I've got notes and countless coffee stains and other stuff, but it doesn't have to be that hard, and it's all in here. And I'm not, I do tons online, obviously, but I like things in my hand. I'm a tactile learner. This is how I tracked my transactions in 2017.
Yeah.
I just wrote them, stuck that stinker up on my wall.
Yep.
And then started circling them and writing down the address when I closed a deal.
Yep.
And so, to people out there, if anyone's watching who thinks that it has to be something complicated, it doesn't, because I'm a top producer and I did it this way. Not saying it's the best way, but I did it.
I think that the overarching theme here is that a lot of people overcomplicate what it actually takes, and a lot of people think that there's a secret behind a high producer or a high somebody with really high habits or a high performing person. There's not a secret. It's actually all the knowledge is right in front of you. If somebody called me from down the road at another brokerage or for another agent who's my competition in my marketplace, and they asked me, what the hell, how did we close 136 transactions last year? I would tell them everything. I would tell them, I'd break it down, but you know what? Most people aren't willing to do it. And that's sad. But I think a lot of people are overcomplicating things. And like you said, they want to overthink the little things, like, how do I track this or how do I track that? A lot of people get caught up on how to even get into business in general, or how to track receipts, well, or this or that. It's like, okay, that's important, but it's such a minor thing to think about in the overarching theme of like, we need to make sure we have business before we figure out like a perfect system for tracking receipts,
But there are people who have analysis paralysis and have to have those things figured out, and they'll never start. One of my favorite sayings goes something like, you can't steal second and leave your foot on first.
Yep.
You have to take the step, both feet in. You have to be all in, which is that idea of you can't steal if you're not going to go.
Yep.
So you have to be willing to take the jump sometimes before you've got it all figured out.
Yep.
Because it's hard to figure out something and ask questions you don't know because you've never done it. And I would say you're 100% correct, because there's a lot of times I don't know what the next step fully looks like, but we just do it.
Yep.
And then we figure out the pieces or the holes as we go. And, sometimes you learn, but if you're educating yourself along the way, and this goes for business across the board, if you're educated and financially you can do it, and you've thought about plan B, plan C, plan D, then you're not just jumping, you're making an educated decision to move forward and do something epic. I ask people every day whether I know them or not, and some people think I'm weird, but I'll be like, hey, what'd you do that was epic today? And they'll be like, I don't know. But if you don't have that mindset of, I'm going to do something epic today, actually, I have to ask you before the meeting's over, because it was one of the things I told somebody I'd do today. I have to ask you something that I think you'll say no to, that opens up an opportunity I would not have if I didn't ask. So before the day's over, I'll be asking you something. I'm not sure what yet.
Ask me right now.
I don't know. You know what? You do speaking events, so do I. Can I come with you to one?
Yeah.
That was epic. See, that was epic. I'm going to go to a speaking event with you. I've got a couple already booked myself. So, it's something I do quite often as well.
We will be having an event here in Eau Claire on April 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. And there will be a realtor panel, and we'll be having a tax specialist come in to talk about bonus depreciation. And then the other event I'm going to be going to is, if you want to fly to California with me, the 21st through the 24th of March, you're invited. And I'll get you a free ticket.
See, and we'll work on it then. Okay. We'll talk about that later. That is a perfect example of people who have intention and people who get results. They're willing to ask the question. So I ask you, for anyone out there that's, dragging their feet, why do people lack follow through? Why do they lack the ability to move forward when, you and I are saying, just do it? It's not that easy for a lot of people. And, I'm guessing you and me, I was blessed with the ability to do that. That's one of my superpowers. And I've done it my whole life. My whole life, I've not done it intentionally, though. And, looking back, I can see I've always been this way. I've always asked questions or just done things and got results. But what I've learned coaching women, coaching business owners, being in real estate, that doesn't come easily to a lot of people. So I love sociology and why things happen and people act that way. Why do people lack follow through? What are your thoughts?
Here, I
'Cause-
have a little story because I've always been one of those people who's like, if you don't freaking do it, you're being a biatch, like if you're
Well,
not
I
like,
mean, legitimately, some people say that and it makes people's feelings hurt, but there's a lot of excuses. But at the end of the day,
so
you're
here's
kind of
my
being a
story
baby.
though. Here's my story because I've always been that person that's like, just freaking do it. Like, what are we waiting for? Because I don't understand. I'm also just go and get it, and I'll mess up 18 times, and then the 19th or 20th time I'll finally get it. And then it looks like I did something amazing. And I'm like, you didn't see the other 17 or 18 times I failed before I hit the 18th time. But I'm willing to go through that failure a bunch of times before I get to that one time I win. And however, my story is I'm really afraid of heights. Like I'm very, very scared of heights. And so for me, I wasn't very empathetic towards people who don't want to take action sometimes, or they're scared of leaving their
Yep.
W-2 job to go start a business or speak in front of a crowd in a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Like speak in front of people scares the shit out of me. And I wasn't very empathetic towards people who weren't willing to take the risk until I was out in Utah and I was hiking on this mountain, right? And there's this
Which one?
Angel's Landing at Zion. You've done it?
One of my favorite. I almost died.
Did you do it? You did Angel's Landing?
Yeah, with no training. So keep going.
Okay, so this is not a good ending to a story. Like it's actually a very disappointing thing in my head because I got halfway out there and I stopped and I had to turn around. And
Oh,
I
really?
still to this day I haven't completed it. And I was so freaking scared. And from that point on, I've been so much more empathetic towards people who are afraid of things. Because up to that point, I had never gotten to a specific point in my life where I had to like say, whatever I've given up, it's because I literally could not physically do it anymore. I ran out of time or like this or that. But
Yep.
in that moment, when I made the decisions to stop and actually turn around, it was completely my conscious brain saying, I give up or I can't do it. And now when I hear people say that about like doing something that would inspire them at the end of the day, because if I would have gotten to the top of Angel's Landing, it would have been amazing. Like I would have to this day, I'd be like, yeah, I made it up that freaking thing. But there's something, a deeper learning curve that I had by actually trying to push myself. Cause the whole time I was like, no, I'm not one of those people. I don't give up. I don't give up. I can do anything. And I didn't. I turned around and I was like, holy crap. Like now I feel more empathetic for people who don't want to make that leap of faith when they have 3 kids and bills to pay. It's like they have this incredible fear that I can't relate to, but now I can relate to it because I've felt that exact same fear before. So I think there's an inner fear that people have about
Absolutely. And
failure, all these things.
and we talk about fear of someone saying no, fear of scarcity, fear of
Rejection.
I just change in general. Have you
Yep.
ever seen The Croods?
I'm not.
I always use, I think his name's Grug, the dad.
Okay.
He builds fear into them because our brain does have a fight or flight. We were built that way.
Yep.
And so he teaches them that if you do any of these things, you'll die. And he always has, paint on his hand. He's a caveman. And he, draws a picture on the wall in paint and says, but if you do this, you'll die. And so he creates a fear of, I can't do this because it will cause me harm. And our brains are wired that way to protect us. So anytime we do something out of the norm or that the brain can't predict, so, the mom with 3 kids who can't leave her job, that's her brain protecting her, like the old school fight or flight, that same as the caveman. It's saying, no, I don't know what to expect here. I don't know what to do here. I'm uncomfortable. Go back. And so, whether it be a diet or a job or a new business, our brain's wired to pull us back to what it knows.
Yep.
So you have to be consciously aware of these things. So I think that people lack the results or the intention, or like you said there, sometimes we do have to give grace. And I think that the good Lord, over time, that's something that we learn as we grow. There are a lot of different factors that we don't know about, and we do need to give grace. And I've needed grace in my life, and I think it taught me the most because I needed grace from people that weren't willing to give it. And so therefore I'm willing to give it a lot, like you said, after you've been through something where you required it or needed it yourself. So, but people can get over that and have conscious awareness, get out of scarcity, find value in themselves, and know their worth. These are all t-shirts I have because they're so important. And then, like you said, people, you know, you failed 18 times and that's cool. But a lot of people can't do that either. And one of our good bestsellers is Navigate Failure, Find Success, to help people understand that it's just part of the process. It's just like waking up and brushing your teeth every day. It's going to happen. So we want to normalize that so people don't get so, you know, distraught when it happens. It's going to happen. So we teach people to be okay with it and know that it's coming. So it's not so bad when it happens. And it's just another stepping stone on the path to success and winning and getting results.
I just wrote that down, Navigate Failure to Find Success, because that's a really good title for this video. I want to hear some things. I want to hear some things from you in your world where you did fail and you were able to bounce back from it and learn. I kind of shared one of my deepest ones, which was, you know, not making it to the end of that mountain hike. And that was a huge one. Still to this day, I think of my fear that I had when I was on the side of that cliff, and I still get my stomach still feels it. Like I'll get that feeling like, oh God.
Well, it's not like it's yours, though. It's a fear. It's a very real fear. I mean, people die on that hike. It's like it's in the top 10 worst hikes in the US in terms of safety. So it's not like you were just, you know, walking across a 10-foot bridge there. I mean,
I'm pretty sure it's number one.
Okay. It's not like it's some abnormal fear. I mean, you are high. There are chains and sometimes not chains. So it's not like, I just want to let everybody know, if you haven't seen Angel's Landing, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I did that with zero training, but I didn't go all the way. I stopped at the chains. I was fine with that. I didn't care. I've been skydiving. I've been, you know, cliff jumping. I had done enough crazy stuff and I didn't need to do anymore.
Yeah.
But something that's pretty huge for me is I live in a very small town. So if I fail, I know people are going to say something about it. Even though they've maybe never done anything like that before and don't understand what it took to get to where I was. I had started a business that did not work out, and it was in real estate. So I had to get over that fear of being okay with failing in that. You know, I kind of wanted to go in a hole for a while, but I didn't have an option. I had people that depended on me, and I had to start all over, and I had to do it fast. Because I had a lot of contracts and people depending on me to produce results. And I do work well under pressure, thankfully. But to fail visibly in front of everyone that I like, know, and trust, and that like knows and trusts me back, and be okay with that was huge for me. Now looking back, I'm like, good Lord, Alison, it wasn't that big of a deal. But at the time, it really, really was, because everyone knew I had started it and I was backing out of it. And that felt like a major failure to me, because I had to start over from ground zero, if not worse, and do it all again. And I had to do it by myself.
What were you feeling when this failed? Were you feeling shame, guilt, sadness, embarrassment?
It was really good because it worked on my ego. Which, you know, anyone who knows me, I call myself Wonder Woman. Like, it shows up on my, like, if I call you, it shows up as Wonder Woman. So it was more like my ego was hurt because people knew I failed.
Yep.
And
so Wonder Woman was not so wonderful that day and failed. Her business failed, right?
It did not. But if you focus on the gap or the gain rather than the gap, my good friend loves the gap and the gain. I flipped it and said, you know what? I started a business that did really, really well. And though it didn't work out the way I wanted, I learned a ton of things. So then when I started my second business, Compass, I had so much knowledge I didn't have before, and I was able to do it even better. And so it turned out to be epic. I mean, we're one of the biggest privately owned, fastest growing in this area companies. And I couldn't say that if I wouldn't have started on my own, but I wouldn't have been able to start on my own if I didn't fail the first time.
Yeah.
And so, people always say, hindsight is 2020, or, oh, you're going on to something better. But when you're in it, my goodness, that is the last thing you should say to somebody, because it doesn't feel that way because you're in it. So if you can learn to navigate that, and that's why I love that shirt, and like stay the course, navigate all of it, it goes right along with the compass, which is our name. So if you can use those things to, if anyone's watching, can use those things to say, you know what, if Alison can have 5 kids, be in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, and still fail and still figure it out, I hope that somebody hears it and it helps them go even more and do even more epic things, because failure is going to happen. It's part of it. I, of all people, get that it sucks like horrifically.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. And the more you can normalize that and be okay with that, the better off you'll be.
I love that. I'm not sure if you saw my Facebook post yesterday, and it goes hand in hand with our conversation right now. It was running a business is a perfect metaphor for life, full of hard times and good times. You cannot let the hard times control you. Hard times are a necessary part of the journey and almost always temporary. Cherish the good times as well, but they're also almost always temporary. Focus on what you can control, improve yourself, and surround yourself with good people. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying right now is you're going to have shitty times. You're going to have good times. If you're going all out in life and you're trying to get the most out of life, then you need to focus on the things you can control. And what you could control is getting back up and going again. You didn't just roll over and give up,
No, because with great rewards or results comes great sacrifice. And if you're not willing to sacrifice in some aspects, then you're not willing to get the results. A lot of people talk about what they want to do and they want the results, but they're not willing to sacrifice the things and time and energy and really emotions that it's going to take to get there, because it's not going to be easy. So, you have to really gut check and say, okay, how bad do I want it? Like, is this really what I want? And sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But if you really, really want it, then you better be prepared for that great sacrifice piece, because it is part of the story. We run a women's group for business and entrepreneurs in this area just because there's so few of them in, rural Wisconsin. I wanted to create a space where we could come together and help each other. Because have you ever heard the Roger Bannister story?
The 4-Minute Mile.
Yes.
I've read the book.
I'm so glad that you know that. I didn't have a Roger Bannister in my life. So for anyone who doesn't know, Roger Bannister wanted to run the mile in under 4 minutes, and everyone just said it could not be done. It's impossible, physically not possible. He had the best trainers. He had, the world was watching him, and he failed. And he kept training and he failed again. And it got to be where all the, the scientists and the people smarter than me said, you know what? It can't be done. But if it could be done, it would have to be at this temperature. It would have to be a nice, warm, breezy day. There would have to be a crowd of over, I think it was 10,000. Sorry if I'm telling the story wrong, but you'll get the idea. To make sure that he had enough energy and, stamina at the end of the race. So that's why they need to have a big crowd. And then, ironically, on a cold, dreary day with a crowd of under 2,000, he ended up breaking the 4-minute mile and ran under 4 minutes by tenths of a second, but he did it. And I don't think that that's the coolest part of the story. What I think is the coolest part of the story is after he broke the 4 minute mile, the following year, more people broke the 4 minute mile.
Another guy did it. Yep, couple more.
So the idea is that immediately changed people's mindset and what they felt that their abilities could be, because now they had a Roger Bannister, someone who showed them that could be done.
Yep.
So that's why it's so important to have people in your life that will help you, because you're reminded that yes, it's hard, but other people have been through it. I'm not alone.
Yep.
And I've had some amazing mentors in my life who I've told were my Roger Bannisters to help me in small town America get to where I am today. I did not do this alone. I had amazing people around me and still do today. And so I would just say, if you don't think it can be done, then you need to surround yourself with more quote unquote Roger Bannisters in your life.
I was just going to wrap this up with the very last thought process of literally surround yourself with the right people. Because what you just said, when you have, and also in your case and my case and anybody who's watching this, everybody's a leader of some sort, especially if you're in real estate. If you're the realtor handling a transaction, you're the leader reacting to a stressful situation for your clients or your kids or your spouse or whatever it might be. We have to take action and be that leader in the scenario and show them that it's not the end of the world, that something, the economy shifts, or, the deal is falling apart, or this lender's not getting back to you. Like, we're the ones who have to really be the leaders in the transaction. And I think that's what all this realtor chat mastermind, this video, you coming on here, that's what I want everybody to understand. Like, if it's meant to be, it's up to us. And we really want to be able to create a lot of leadership in this group. And really appreciate you coming on here, Alison. Is there anything else you want to add to this? I feel like that was a very, very well-rounded conversation with the and I got my title out of our conversation too, which is Navigate Failure to Find Success, which that whole conversation was amazing.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I hope people get, something, because the last thing I would end by saying is you have to be driven by purpose, because I put on my Facebook, you're not going to want to do things every day. You have to be driven by something bigger than you. And you have to be driven by the discipline and the processes that you've created. And I'm going to read you what I read every day along with other things, but I'll read it and that'll be my ending. It says, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, in all the places you can, as long as you ever can.
That's a way to live life right there.
Well, we run our company, and my life is run by that saying by John Wesley, founder of the Methodist Church. And if you run your business that way, you will be successful, because you're driven by something more important than you, and you're treating people well.
I love it. That's a mic drop. I don't think I even need anything else there. Again, if anybody is watching this and you guys, we're going to have a couple of realtor masterminds each year. Alison will be there, I'm sure, at all of them, along with your team. But really looking to hopefully get you on stage at to speak on the panelist board one of these times. And
well, I asked you and you said yes, so you have to, because I have it on video.
You'll be there. You will be there. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Alison, very much for your time.
Yes, thank you. See you later.
Thanks, everybody.